equally in other platforms. We have to boost the funding. Without funding, it will be difficult to actually take into account all the work which is necessary for adaptation, resilience, and the environmental protection, and of course, including biodiversity, which is a great source of wealth in many African countries. It is crucial, of course, to develop the carbon market, which is going to represent a very crucial source, notably for countries that comprise the Congo Basin, and this is equally going to be reinvested to come up with conservation programs. Yesterday, we actually started with African dialogues for the COP15 on biodiversity. I would like to congratulate the Gabonese authorities for organizing these two events together, because this will actually create a very useful synergy and collaboration. The Congo Basin forests should be preserved, and this is in the interest of all. I would like to take this opportunity to actually acknowledge all mechanisms that were put in place for carbon credits that will enable us to save over 73,000 tons of carbon yearly. This is actually a hydro energy which will have a concrete impact. Of course, we have other sources of energy, and financing should be developed, especially given that these resources should be handed over to the communities that are doing the work on the ground, including the associations and other civil societies. We have public authorities, amongst others. Thirdly, it is important equally to continue involving communities, representatives, especially the most vulnerable groups which are affected by climate change, of course the youth, the women, especially because they are the layers of the society that are very much concerned. It is equally vital to propose local solutions which are adapted to the problems that they encounter.
Nothing for us without us. I'm very happy that I've been able to participate in this Africa Climate Week. I've been very present in many of the sessions and plenaries. I have learned a lot, I have to say, and I feel reconforted in continuing my work together with the Gabon United Nations country team to support Gabon in further intensifying this championship. I just issued a blog the other day for the SDG global website where I said Gabon is on track to become a model for environmental conservation and in the fight to climate change. In the name of the United Nations here in Gabon, I would like to reiterate our strong support to all activities, also our intention to continue coordinating, me especially as a resident coordinator, to coordinate closely also with the resident coordinators in other countries so that we can also contribute to this one voice and to synergies and to cooperation all across the African continent for forging a strong position ahead to the COP27, but also beyond. Let's never forget that discussions need to be ongoing all year through, but discussion is not what we want. What we want truly is implementation and a stronger action. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Savina Massari, for this inspiring speech. Vous l'avez dit, what next? Implémentation et plus d'action.
You said what next? We have to implement and carry out actions. You equally thank all the organizers and the participants to this event.
During the opening ceremony for the Africa Climate Week with me, I had the pleasure to invite Cecilia Jenga for the summary on tracks. Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, Excellencies. Commissioner Joseph Asako, Minister Lee White, all ministers present, members of the diplomatic corps, partners of the Africa Climate Week, experts and practitioners, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the Africa Climate Week 2022 comes to an end here in Libreville, in the beautiful country of Gabon. Over the last 5 days, we've had more than 200 individual sessions. We have brought together more than 2,300 participants in person, and we have facilitated virtual participation with over, I believe now, 3,700 participating both in person and virtually. It is very inspiring to see high levels of interest from across the spectrum of stakeholders. We started off with being graced by the presence of the president of our host country of Gabon. We had several students, youth. We even had a students and youth workshop from academic experts and on-the-ground practitioners working to help communities across Africa to adapt to climate change. The Africa Climate Week has brought all of us together. We are all united in purpose and looking to build a better future for Africa in the face of climate change. In the meeting rooms and in the corridors, we had voices calling for change, calling for a new and better practices and models of development that put us on course to a low emissions future where cities and rural communities can thrive because they are resilient to climate change. At a personal level, I felt very privileged to have the opportunity to participate in the last 5 days of this very important gathering. I experienced a deep engagement, and whether I was in the meeting rooms here in Akanda or whether I was on the corridors or on the terrace of this hotel, there was an African buzz, there was an African vibe, there was a hunger amongst all of us to see that we seek and find solutions for the various challenges that we face. We saw opportunities, actually, and we never saw challenges. I gauged the confidence from each one of you to bring transformation, and whether we were discussing climate change or biodiversity, of how to restore our degraded lands, or how to deal with the issue of women smallholder farmers, or how to ensure that an intergenerational conversation continues and that we really empower our youth. For me, that was really what I will take away from this gathering. Here at the Africa Climate Week 2022, thematic discussions explored two themes that I would like to highlight in terms of the takeaways from these. And these are issues that are critical for our continent and indeed the world, where we are striving for a 1.5 degrees centigrade and attaining a resilient future. Getting on track on these two areas, if crucial, if we are to achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement. And discussing these two tracks here in Libreville is crucial on the road to COP27, which will take place in just a few weeks' time. These track discussions were open to all. 8 sessions were held under each track, and all sessions were well attended with excellent participation. Let me start with track 1. Track 1 convened stakeholders around how Africa can strive for a 1.5 degrees centigrade and limit warming in line with the Paris goal. And this requires us setting ambitious targets in the near term and the long term, and transforming these targets into tangible climate action. A session on the NDCs and long-term strategies, which are the pillars of the Paris Agreement, kicked off the track and highlighted the need to mobilize and empower a broad range of stakeholders around national climate actions. Discussion on the just transition followed, with focus on inclusivity and how to engage youth, women, and business, including the 44 million small and medium-sized enterprises in Africa and smallholder farmers. These two sessions set the tone for the track to discuss potential to find solutions in Africa. We heard how progress on carbon markets under the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement can open opportunities for African nations to invest in bold climate action. And we heard the need for smart, innovative financing, and that is more accessible and, of course, more affordable. Technical sessions then explored Africa's rich mitigation opportunities, from renewable energy and green hydrogen to smart farming and sustainable building in cities, all crucial to the deep transformation that is needed in this continent. Throughout the discussions, we heard that partnerships, capacity building, training, and reskilling are key to achieve the best possible outcomes. Policies and enabling frameworks will also be needed. With this, ambitious mitigation can be achieved in line with the national development priorities and sustainable development goals. Our Track 2 discussions focused on attaining a resilient world and open space for us to discuss the causes of vulnerability and how societies can achieve long-term resilience. The track kicked off with a visioning exercise to articulate Africa's dream for transformation, transformative adaptation, and long-term resilience, giving insights and inspiring reflections on what adaptation action means for Africa. The session highlighted systemic challenges that should be embraced as new opportunities. The 7 sessions were then followed and highlighted various pathways to achieve these visions of Africa's future. We heard that we have put people at the center of adaptation action. We must raise awareness, improve information sharing, and engage communities to bridge the knowledge gaps. We have to bring indigenous people and modern technologies to address critical challenges such as water, energy, and food security. We had the need for innovative financing and the need to build capacity to understand adaptation costs and develop bankable proposals with local benefits. We had the need to shift to long-term planning and engage cross-sectoral and cross-border learning on best practices. A key priority is adaptation action and building resilience over time through early warning systems, preparedness and disaster risk reduction to avert and minimize displacement. The devastating impacts of displacement due to climate impacts are already clear, so let's keep people where they are. To attain this transformative adaptation and long-term resilience, all stakeholders have a role to play, and governments must prioritize people as they work together to advance a global goal on adaptation. And this must be informed by the discussions we had here today, the last few weeks, and in focus at COP27. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my dear friends, across both tracks and all sessions, we had the voice of Africa. We had what I referred to as the vibe of Africa, calling for change and calling for an enabling support needed to be part of that change. This is the voice of the region. We will take this to COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt in November. We will compile the key takeaways from these track decisions into a final report for the Africa Climate Week 2022 so that parties and practitioners alike have a resource to guide your work. As we walk the road to COP27, this strengthens the foundation for action and opens the door to innovation. Above all, we heard that there is opportunity in climate action, and we have to protect the lives and the livelihoods if we are to have the chance to seize the opportunity. Thank you to all of you who came to the Africa Climate Week 2022. Thank you to all of you who have contributed to this rich discussion. And thank you to all who are working so hard to deliver a better future for Africa and the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cecilia, for the summary of all the discussions and the talks that had been during this whole week. I would like to continue this conclusion session with Monsieur Max Puy, qui est vice-président du...
I would like to continue with, I'm calling right now to the President of the National Council of Climate Change of the Dominican Republic. I beg your pardon.
Monsieur le Ministre Lee White.
Mr. Minister Lee White, distinguished minister, distinguished representatives of the UNFCCC, distinguished representative of international organizations, the accredited diplomatic corps, to Gabon, ladies and gentlemen. I was invited to take part to this Africa Climate Week so that I can give an account of what actually happened during the Latin American and Caribbean Climate Week, which occurred in July. That enabled me to actually take part in the several activities of this Africa Climate Week and to support and discuss with the participants hailing from various horizons, and they actually enriched me with their ideas and experiences. I actually noted how between the meetings of Gabon and Libreville and the Saint-Domingue, firstly, I can say that there was a clear commitment to work relentlessly in the struggle against climate change. I would like to reiterate here, just like in Saint-Domingue, the decision to make the voice of our people being heard and to make a contribution, huge contribution, and consider this as a struggle of our time. We are a little bit tired of agreement and promises which are not kept. From the two sides of the Southern Atlantic, so we see that there is the will to call for the implementation of decisions arrived at. It is true that the world is facing a serious and dangerous situation, and that some people could take advantage to shy away from their obligations. But there is no excuse or valid reason to escape. There is no time, and there is no way for us to run away. In Saint-Domingue, there is a huge interest to unify the interest in order to come up with effective strategies in the fight against climate change. Here in Libreville, it is the same case. We have to mainstream the vision of this encounter to come up with sustainable and concrete solutions to climate change. We need a common negotiation strategy within the regions of the world and amongst the regions. Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, and the entire population of the southern part of the continent have to be together for the meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh. We have to be there ready at COP27 to defend and support the product of our thinking. The President of Egypt can count on us. Once again, I would like to say a big thank you to President Ali Bongo and the Gabon authorities for the wonderful organization of the Africa Climate Week. And I want to acknowledge all the organizers for this wonderful meeting, which was a success. Thank you to all of you.
Merci, Monsieur le Vice-président.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
Richard Munong, who is the Africa Regional Climate Change Coordinator at the United Environment Programme. He is responsible for guiding the actualization of the UNEP Climate Resilient Development Strategy for Africa in a manner that ensures human well-being. For this section, we'll talk about the leveraging innovative collaboration for greater impact. Mr. Richard Munong, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Professor Lee White, Excellency Minister Tobiko, Excellency Commissioner Sako, the UN Resident Coordinator and sister UN agencies, all protocols observed. Having a good discussion is like having riches. Our 5 days here in Libreville, a beautiful city, have actually enriched our minds, as we've already heard. We extend our heartfelt appreciation to the government of Gabon for being a hospitable, for being an exemplary host of this year's Africa Climate Week. Gabon have paved the pathway, showcasing to the world that we can actually do it, being the most carbon positive country in the world, thanks to your remarkable effort to protect your forests and restructure your economic growth to reprioritize low carbon pathways. This conference, as we've already heard, brought together state and non-state actors whose actions and decisions and investments are critical to addressing social inequalities, advancing climate action, safeguarding people's lives and ecosystems. As the United Nations Environment Programme, we were opportune to participate in series of dialogues and heart-enriching discussions, from nature-based solutions to safeguarding sustainable cities, and the enablers were discussed, to critical methane action, which is a timely area that needs to be looked into, to enhancing action on global tech, to dialogues on critical finance area where Africa have to bridge the gap. But one thing that came out very clearly, Excellency, was that we need a whole of society approach. And we must tap into the biggest constituency of the entire African continent, her youth, because these are Africa's powerhouse, and we must tap into the ingenuity. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, this edition of the Africa Climate Week came at an opportune moment as we head to COP27, which has been christened the African COP, knowing fully well that rain does not fall on one roof alone. The successes of Libreville will reverberate across the entire world and pave the way and provide a springboard for Africa to be able to seize opportunities. Because we understand and know, as Chinua Achebe said, when we gather in the moonlight, we do not do so because we cannot see the moon or the sun outside. We do so because it is the right thing to do. These 5 days in Libreville, sons and daughters of the African continent and of the entire global community came together because it is the right thing to do. These 5 days showed the unity of purpose, but unity of purpose because it, in our conscience, when we see mothers burying their kids before they reach the age of 5 because they don't have nutritious food. Yes, unity of purpose to ensure that the runaway climate change and pollution that kills over 700 Africans each and every year should actually be stopped. Unity of purpose to ensure that the disenfranchised youth who get into the labor market each and every year without finding jobs, we can actually be able to reverse this. And we have done that through this African proverb that when spiders unite, they can tie down a lion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Richard, with the powerful speech full of hope for the young generation. Let's follow with Mrs. Alice Ouedraogo on behalf of the World Bank. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Minister Lee, dear members of the Diplomatic Corps, Excellencies, dear Savina, UN Coordinator, dear Director of UNEP, Director Adjoint of UNEP, distinguished ladies and gentlemen participants, the World Bank is honored to take part in this closing ceremony to deliver really brief statements. So on behalf of the World Bank, I would like to start by thanking the government of Gabon for its generous hospitality. It was really a fantastic week. I would also like to thank our partners, the UNFCCC, the UNDP, UNEP, and others local partners for their effort in organizing the Africa Climate Week. From the World Bank perspective, this event has been a great success and has sparked important discussions on the African perspective on climate actions that will inform the upcoming COP27 in Egypt. Given the range of discussions and stakeholders, Africa Climate Week has demonstrated the tremendous potential that can be realized through markets and non-market solutions for adaptation and mitigation in Africa. The World Bank stands ready to work with governments in Africa and other stakeholders to advance the climate action. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. Alice Wadaogo, on behalf of the World Bank for this statement. Pour faire un lien avec les générations futures.
To make a linkage with the future generations in this fight against climate change, I have the honor to welcome Mrs. Claudia Ondo.
Monsieur le Ministre,
Mr. Minister, representatives of international organizations, regional and national organizations, dear participants, my friends, the youth, and it is an honor for me to be here before you. It is an honor, through my voice, represent and take advantage of this platform to actually showcase everything that the youth have seen and feel. I am not going to repeat on what you already know on the percentage of African population, and I'm not going to repeat on the current situation of our planet. I want to take advantage of this time that I have to share with you what I have seen and heard. During this week, I was fortunate to meet extraordinary youth. I had the opportunity to be fed with hope. I saw youth who were moderators, organizers. I saw youth who were organized in panels as experts on climate change, and the consequences that this climate change has on our planet. I had the incredible opportunity to meet youth who are committed, passionate, motivated, the youth who are ready to act. I was equally opportune to work with incredible youth who are using their expertise with strong messages. We have youth such as Goma who are working to protect the Congo Basin, and I would like to say that this feeling of hope and joy, I have the feeling that it is going to disappear once we are going to cross this tent. Why? Because youth are going to go in the shadow these youth are going to go back in their countries, in their world, and for most of them, they are not going to get any support from their communities and their leaders.
Demain, quand je
Tomorrow, when I will be looking at the TV, looking at the news, this youth must have disappeared. Before we cross this door, I would like to recall you and remind you this. We, the youth, are here, and we are ready to be committed. We can accomplish much more than be invited for ordinary sessions. We can do much more than just wearing t-shirts and distributing flyers. It is true that we do not have very expensive suits. We do not live in expensive places. Some of us are living in remote areas, but we all have the ability to act and to bring our own contribution in the struggle against the climate change. The plastics that we see in the oceans, the seas, the floods, and all the problems that we face, we are equally feeling them. And we, youth, will suffer from this for a longer period of time. What I want to tell you is that the participation of youth has to be mainstream in a holistic view in the struggle against climate change, so that we can see structural changes which are crucial for our planet. And that is why we have to accept that power has to be distributed between the young and the older people. And that is why you have to take into account our point of views and, of course, our own solutions to come up with a resilient continent which is neutral on climate. The youth have to be supported to be better communicated, notably through the politics, in order to be able to influence the decisions. I am a young girl of less than 30 years. When I come in a hall, I surprise people because there are not so many young people. I actually studied and I did a social science, and today I am a farmer. My certificates, I decided to put them in the drawers to specialize myself in farming, because I know the impact of industrial agriculture on and the consequences that it has on our planet, because I know that there are consequences, notably on the greenhouse gas emissions. We know that there are destructions on the wildlife and the environment. Everything I have cited costs over $3,000 billion yearly. I am just a young lady, but they have many other youth people. We should not just be mere actors of the civil societies. We want to see the young people much more integrated, notably in the decision making. We want to see more young people who are journalists, researchers, scientists, and the struggle for in climate change requires that we have ambition, passion, and inclusiveness. It is high time that we should be more than figures in report by stakeholders that are drafting this report. It is high time that the decisions that are taken should be taken without our own consent. And on this note,
This requires ambition, passion, and inclusivity. Without it, the world will face insurmountable barriers to overcome the impacts and thus to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you.
L'avenir n'est pas un héritage, c'est une
the future is not a legacy, it is an opportunity, an obligation, and it is an opportunity for the youth to take their destiny in their hands. That is the summary of her statement.
For her closing speech, thank you.
Thank you, moderator, for giving me the floor, for inviting me to address my closing remark. Good afternoon, every one of you. Bonjour. Excellence.
Your Excellency, Professor Lee White, the Minister of Environment, of Water and Forest of the Republic of Gabon, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, the head of international, regional, and national organizations, and I can acknowledge here the President Verissimo, who is the President of ACAS. He is here with us where we are organizing this very important event of Africa Climate Week. Distinguished guests, dear partners, all protocol duly respected.
Union Commission, I wish to congratulate once again the government and the people of the Republic of Gabon for the warm hospitality accorded to all the delegation since our arrival in Libreville, and for the very successful African Climate Week Day. I would like to commend Minister Lee for this really organization, because together we work, but we saw the way people came, the participation was very, very important, and we know we are all together, we are all on the same page to really tackle the issue of climate change on our continent. We are really committed. These 4 days we stay here in this beautiful city of Libreville. We could see that the youth are there, women are there, all the stakeholders are involved. Congratulations, Minister. As we prepare for COP27, I particularly appreciate the support from all the partners, mostly the UN agencies that were here supporting us to make sure that this event is really successful and came out with a very, very good outcome presented by my sister, Gillian. It was very, very good report. We would like to have it. You should share it with us so that the African Union Commission, my department, Harbe, we follow it very closely. The African Climate Week has not only provided a platform to deliberate on Africa's priority for the upcoming COP27, but also a space for networking, sharing of ideas, and building new partnership among us. Our key priority of COP27 in African Union remain the climate finance. We are really worried about climate finance because we don't have access to finance, but we have the tools. We have the tools to really start implementing some climate action in this continent. We at the African Union, during our summit in February, we adopted, our head of state, not you, we are just experts, our head of state, they adopted the GRAP, the African Recovery Action Plan from the COVID pandemic. The tool is there, so we are just saying that we should mobilize funds so that we start implementing the 5 pillars of GRAP. It has 5 pillars, so all these discussions we discussed here during these 4 days are inside. We have finance, we have renewable energy, we have nature-based solution, we have climate resilience, we also have agricultural resilience, and we have green city to plant our trees, because we have our initiative, which is the Great Green Wall that we want to start putting trees from Cape Verde to Somalia. So with this, I think we really need finance for us to do all this type of our 5 pillars on the GRAPs. We need to scale up the level of new, additional, and predictable finance. So we are at the African Union, we are trying to recruit some experts to come and allow us to elaborate bankable project, and also form our member states, the expert, to have the bankable project so that we go and knock the door to all these financial facilities and institutions. We really need to mobilize investment if we want to have a clean energy on our continent. In particular, adaptation. When we are talking about adaptation, we said it very clearly, this is one of their priority. We are also talking about mitigation, but adaptation is very, very important. So we need really a financing adaptation mechanism in order to really to implement our NDCs that we adopted during COP21. Loss and damage is another issue, because our farmers, mostly in those small communities, they lose a lot of their crops. We have a lot of damage and loss because of climate change. So I think climate justice should be one of our priorities in Africa. And another issue that we are still really looking also is a just transition on energy. It's clear that energy is very polluted, but for us to change from one source of energy to another, we need investment. For instance, if we have to change from fossil to another clean energy, hydro energy, we need really to, we need really a lot of investment. That's why Africa is asking just transition. I keep on saying an example of Glasgow last year, when India say, if we have to leave the carbon energy, we need 80 years of just transition. We in Africa, we need now to start defining our timeline. Is it 50 years? 100 years, 200 years of just transition? That is really a call for us to take it during the road to COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. Because we need to define what kind of transition we want to go through. We know that some countries like Nigeria, they have already submitted their just transition period, which is really quite significant because Nigeria submitted 60 years of transition. So I think we have to start having this discussion to start negotiating. Our negotiating groups are here. We started yesterday their discussion. So I think we need the just transition to really be in our agenda. So the last one, we also, during Glasgow, we started talking about Africa's special needs and special circumstances. We have islands in our continent. We have 38 coastal countries, and mostly our island. Here in in Central Africa, we have Cape Verde. They are really, having a lot of impact on climate change. So we really need to focus on those communities, on those small islands, because if we don't take care of the islands, they might disappear. So this is another issue. Honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, as you may all be aware, since yesterday, Gabon is also hosting the African Group of Negotiators in Biodiversity and the African Union Expert Group on Wildlife, who are preparing their position paper for the upcoming CDB COP15. I think it will be in Canada, and the site is COP19. The sessions have been held in parallel and at the same venue to enhance the synergy between the two conventions, especially in cross-cutting thematic areas. Key recommendations from yesterday's session on the biodiversity and wildlife group emphasized that need to strengthen coordination and synergy between different MEAs, particularly on climate change, biodiversity, and desertification are very important. The Commission is committed to supporting the effort aimed at enhancing synergy and complementarity. Let us work together. Let us leave silo apart. As we conclude this year's edition of African Climate Week, I call upon all of us to work together under the leadership of the incoming COP27 president, the Arab Republic of Egypt, and in a spirit of multilateralism to ensure a successful COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh. Je vous souhaite un bon retour dans vos pays respectifs.
I wish you a happy return in your respective country and rendezvous at Sharm el-Sheikh.
Thank you very much, Her Excellency Joseph Asako, on behalf of the African Union. The next speaker, no introduction. Please welcome on stage His Excellency Professor Lee White, Minister of Water and Forests of the Gabonese Republic, for his concluding remark.
Merci.
Distinguished ministers, Mr. President of ACAS, Madam Commissioner, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I think that after this week, I can afford to say dear friends, because we have actually spent a lot of time together, which was full of emotions. For once in my life, I'm not going to speak for long. However, I need to acknowledge all of you. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge my boss, His Excellency Ali Bongo Ondimba, the President of the Republic of Gabon. It is very easy to be the minister in charge of environment in Gabon, because I have the full support of my president. We all know how committed he is. We know his vision. And to all the youth who met me last Saturday after the event, I told the youth that the President Ali Bongo is fighting like a lion to mobilize Africa and the entire world to fight against the climate change. The climate change, which according to me is the biggest threat in our continent. So thank you to His Excellency Ali Bongo Ondimba. I would equally like to acknowledge UN Climate, all our partners, for your constant support during this Africa Week. I want to equally say a big thank you for the organizers of the side events, or the technical team supporting us, and of course the volunteers. I would equally like to acknowledge my entire team, interministerial team. It was actually a teamwork to be able to organize such a major event, and of course we saw that there was a major work. Very often it's quite difficult, but I think that everyone was able to chip in something for the success of this event. And of course, a big thank you to you all who came for this event. It was for me an inspiration. We are all aware of the problems, but this week, we actually laid emphasis on the solutions. The President Ali Bongo mentioned in his statement, in his speech, that Africa has solutions. Africa has that wisdom, and we have to push forward these solutions and bring it to the attention of the entire world, rather than waiting to get solutions from others. And therefore, on the path to COP27, you inspired me. You were actually a source of inspiration, just as we did for COP26. And it is very important. COP27 will encompass the commitment of Egypt and Africa, and we set time without numbers that COP27 will be one where we will have a lot of actions, and it is high time for us to go with concrete actions and proposals for this COP.
When they told me this morning that we have had more than 2,400 participants in this week, in over 200 technical sessions, 2,400 people. It shows the engagement of all levels of society for this issue of climate change. People have come from all around Africa and from further afield to share their knowledge, their proposals, and their energy. We really need to make sure that we are together and that we are, that we're moving forward on this issue of climate change. In one of the talks, I saw somebody mentioned the fact that when you only have one bracelet on your hand, it doesn't make any noise. But if the ladies who wear lots of bracelets that jingle, they jingle loud, the more there are. The more of us who are together in this fight, the better chance we have of winning. So this week, Libreville, thanks to you, Libreville has been the climate capital of Africa. Somebody already mentioned that we think that Gabon is perhaps the most climate positive country on the planet, thanks to the sound management of forests, thanks to 5 decades of continuous political commitment to sustainable development. The future of Africa is sustainable development, adding value to our immense riches. The immense riches of the African continent can make our continent into a thriving continent if we can add value to natural resources in situ instead of exporting raw natural materials. And if we can add value to our natural resources on the continent, we will take care of those natural resources with much more attention to detail. And I think that's what we are showing in Gabon. It's hard work, but we can do it. We expect in the run-up to COP27 to be creating almost 100 million tons of carbon credits. We had the great news yesterday or the day before that we did our first ever CDM project, and our sovereign fund has now been delegated by the president to the sovereign fund. Is our fund for the future generations of Gabon. Will be at my side, trying to sell and to move those carbon credits forward. And I think it's safe to say that many of the rainforest countries of the world, many of the African countries are watching what happens with these carbon credits in Gabon, because they're giving a lot of countries the hope that we can move forward in a very positive way within the UNFCCC. So, thank you for coming. With a tear in my eye, I will wave goodbye to everybody who came from abroad. I've had such a good time this week that I will be sad to see you go. I wish you all the safest of journeys. As you return to your families, we all spend so much time away from our families fighting this cancer of climate change. And I know that families suffer. So with regret, I declare clos, I declare an end to our deliberations of this week. Thank you so much, all of you, for your contributions. Safe journey.
Professor Lee, Professor, you can stay here. I will ask all the speakers this morning to join Professor Lee on stage for a family photo. Thank you. And the front row, the whole front row, you can join. As they all join the stage for the family photo, I will ask kindly the Councillor Arm and Sam for the COP27 President's team. One more member will join the team very soon. May I ask the Councillor Arm and Sam? Can you please join? He will receive a letter from on behalf of the Gabonese government given by Professor Lee.
Ça marche? Ça marche? Bon. COP27 va être un moment.
COP27 is crucial for Africa.
Moving the agenda forward. Donc, permettez-moi de transmettre les messages.
Permit me to transmit the key messages that we have had during this climate week and wish you a courage and
we are all with you to make COP27 Africa's Action COP. Thank you. You want to put a picture?
Thank you very much, Excellency. So, thank you. We can have a round of applause. Cecilia, one more thing. Professor Leo Sol, stay on stage, please. Avant de nous séparer, mesdames, messieurs, nous allons,
before we part ways, we are going to all take part to the acknowledgement ceremony, which is going to take us 5 minutes. Just the time to thank all the volunteers, the participants, the speakers. I'm going to ask Mr. Pambu Valdor-Juvet if he's in the hall to come on stage. Zungu Zoriel Armandine, Geldes Wilfried, Jaël, Imelda Francine, Oshombina, Mayombo Breeze, Nambo Sabrina, Eboti Daniel, Andre Stéphane. Please come on stage.
Le podium. Alors, nous assistons maintenant à la remise, on va dire, des prix à toutes les personnes qui ont bien voulu.
We are going to hand over prizes to all those who gave us a privilege by being with us here. They are representative of all the organs, they are representatives of the organizers on behalf of the volunteers of this Africa Climate Week 2022. A round of applause for them, please.
Les organisateurs ont tenu
The organizers insisted that they be present here, and that the organizer Cecilia says something on behalf of the volunteers. Cecilia or Professor Louis, do you have something to say?
Cecilia, you can a few words.
On behalf of the UN Climate Change Secretariat, in partnership with all our partners organizing the Africa Climate Week 2022, and on behalf of our new Executive Secretary, Simon Steele, I would like to express our gratitude to the government of Gabon, the dedication of our Minister Lee White, all our ministers, including my own minister, Keraiko Tebiko, and to the young people that also participated side by side. And as I emphasize the importance of this intergenerational conversation, I really want to thank you so much. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize Zita, who I know has playing a significant role coordinating this alongside with our team leader, Niklas. I really want to thank you for that, and of course your entire team for ensuring that we had the best possible Africa Climate Week. As we promised, the road is leading to Sharm el-Sheikh. The minister has presented the outcome of this meeting, which will be presented to Minister Shukri, and we really look forward to seeing you all in Sharm el-Sheikh, in person, virtually, having your own COP27 conversations in your different akandas, and we really look forward to a brilliant outcome that will have huge implications and impacts for Africa. Thank you very much, and again, wishing you safe travels. Thank you.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of this closing ceremony. To all the officials, the participants who made this African Climate Week possible to be held in Gabon, thank you on behalf of the Gabonese people. Le climat change, peut-être que nous devrions faire de...
The climate has changed, and perhaps we should do the same. And thank you so much. A safe journey back home. We are going to have a solemn ceremony at 2 p.m. Thank you for being here. Goodbye.
Pour le profit, nous avons endommagé notre seul lieu de vie. Couper abusivement, brûler, polluer, investir dans tous les secteurs